Hello everybody, and just going to do a really quick little video just responding to a set of comments that I had on my account when I did a few videos about Ukraine and the Russian-Ukrainian war. There's been repeated comments that the Ukrainian-Russian war is in fact a proxy war, that the United States is secretly funding it, and that Ukraine could only ever survive this long due to US backing. That they're using this war to deliberately weaken the Russian Federation. Now, first off, this is absolutely ridiculous, especially in the modern age. Anybody who's keeping an eye on geopolitics and the relationship between Ukraine, Russia and the United States would see that this is in no way you could classify this as a proxy war. For it to be a proxy war, you need to be able to show deliberate support of one side of a conflict against another side of a conflict that can be directly to support them, or this second side can also be supported by some other group. You could look to the civil war in Yemen to a good example of this, where the two sides of that war, one side is supported by Iran, or was until recently, and the other side is supported by Saudi Arabia. The situation in Ukraine is, first off, a deliberate invasion. The Russians invaded Crimea in 2014 and then caused a lot of civic upset in the Russian-speaking areas of Ukraine that we now call the Donbass, and then invaded the rest of Ukraine, including the Donbass, then in 2022. Throughout all of these invasions, attacks, takeovers, there was never any mention of Russia fighting against the USA. In fact, it was deliberately out of most of the official pronouncements from Moscow. In particular, the last stage of it, which was the invasion of Ukraine proper. In the period directly after the invasion, of course, it was condemned by the West, by the United States and by Europe. And support started to flood in. But it quickly became apparent that support from America was being held up by the American Congress with a large aid bill that was supposed to be sent during the Biden administration, being delayed over and over again by the Republicans in Congress under the direct orders of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump came to power then, he publicly humiliated the Ukrainian leader, Vladimir Zelensky, in the White House, and after that started cutting back American support for weapons and equipment to go to Ukraine. In fact, European countries started buying weapons and equipment in order to send to Ukraine from the Americans. Later on in 2025, there was the US peace plan, which basically listed off a whole load of points that had already been put out there by the Kremlin, up to and including the ceding of the Donbass to Russia, and also the fact that there would be no security guarantees for the Ukrainians. This basically, along with other things such as Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska, the invasion or the attacks on Iran, and the lifting of oil sanctions on Russia, and the fact that Russia has not been targeted by any of the tariffs that Trump put into place there last year. Well, if it is a proxy war, he's running it really badly, to say the least. Ukraine, on the other side, has been making more and more moves towards Europe. Europe provided more aid to Ukraine as a bloc than the US has, especially over the last year and a half. The Ukrainians also have started developing their own weapon systems, with a new Patriot missile copy coming into effect fairly soon. This is the Freya missile. You'll be hearing a lot more about that fairly soon. And with the Flamingo cruise missile and the various drone technologies, Ukraine has shown itself to be more than capable of supplying its own military needs. Then on top of that, you've got Starlink, which was the system used for communication that the Ukrainians actually paid for, and the Russians were using illegally and not paying for. And of course, Elon Musk cut that off. Now, if there was a real proxy war and the US was actually supporting Ukraine directly, then the Ukrainians wouldn't be paying for this. The US would be. Anyway, this leads us up to recently, where Russia has actually openly asked to get a European negotiator to negotiate on behalf of the two sides, to mediate on behalf of the two sides. If this was a proxy war, they would be, why were they not looking for Europeans before? And why were they happy to have America being the go-between? And then finally, Zelensky himself has openly come out and said that he would like to meet Putin directly face to face, despite the fact that the Americans have largely ignored the Ukrainian war this year due to their own problems in Iran. So all in all, as I said just a moment ago, if this is a proxy war, then the Americans are basically running it really, really badly. So I don't see the evidence for it. Anybody who's out there who still thinks it is a proxy war after I outlining all those points, if they wanted to argue the point with me, please do so in the comments. I'd be very happy to discuss these points in more detail and give my thoughts on any other points you might like to make. But please do so with a certain amount of respect and civility. All right? I'm not on using this channel to be called any names or the like, so you will be deleted and your post removed if you do so. Anyway, hope that clears it up, and hope the sound is okay on this one. Don't have my microphone with me, so we'll see. Take care.